Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your man, Hunter Grand, your personal agent for change, making life easy, Barzini.
And I'm fempreneur extraordinaire and tech diva all day, Dre Renee.
And this is the Crossroads, where there's only one rule.
Be free to be you.
What up, though?
Whew, child. Merry Christmas. That's all I got.
Listen, y'all, if y'all would know some of the stuff that happens backstage getting ready for the show, during the countdown, I had a burp coming up and I'm trying to get it out, like beat myself on the chest before it counts down so I can do the intro. And then we was getting Dre set up because she's on location in another state.
Another place. Yes, child.
And through all of that, getting her set up, I forgot to do my lighting.
So I was gonna ask you, but that's okay. This is live. You know, they know we have things to do.
Well, mine is
talk to Alexa.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you know
what happened.
I see. I wouldn't
see what I.
So y'all, first of all, I get talked about a lot because my home is fully automated. I'm not gonna say her name because she'll talk back. She runs the place. It's like Jarvis on Iron Man. So my lighting for the show is on voice command. So y'all will get to see what y'all don't normally get to see because just this is the setup. She gets a kick out of it though.
Yeah.
Alexa, switch the podcast.
Playing the Misfits podcast from.
And I didn't even say that. She always do that. So she getting old. Alexa, stop.
Now she's getting old.
She don't hear properly. And I know I need y'all to chime in. If you have her and you tell her to do something, she do something completely different, right? Now she's showing off because in front of the company. Let's see if she get it right this time. Alexa, switch to podcast.
All right, there you go. Boom. You look good. Thank you.
All right,
and that'll give us time. Well, I was shooting out links so folks know that we are absolutely on. And I know we've been going live on Tuesdays, and so today is a Wednesday, and it's holiday time, so we understand, folks are running around doing last minute shopping and whatnot.
Right, but we still.
But come on in the room, as you see the notification, come on in.
Yeah. If anybody is thinking about getting me a Christmas gift, I wear a size. I wear a size cash.
What do you want? Not a size cash. What do you want for Christmas? I wear a size cash.
I wear a size cash. You know what I'm saying?
I love it.
So speaking of cash, let's get this out of the way early. We got to pay these bills.
Oh yes.
Bills. Let's start that off. So as always, y'all, the Crossroads Podcast is brought to you by the House of 334.
It's the house.
For all your business branding and copyright needs, go to houseof334.com. It is Black owned, it is Black woman owned, and it is amazing. The Crossroads Podcast is also brought to you by The Crossroads. So y'all, you're already watching us on YouTube because that's the only place that we stream now, because we want to build this audience and we want to make sure we're funneling everyone here. But most importantly, if you're here, make sure that you subscribe, right? Go down there to that bell, click the button, and you'll get the alerts of every time that we go live and when our new pre-recorded episodes are up. So season 2, the pre-recorded ones are coming to you very soon. And if you want to keep up with everything else that we do, you can go to our bit.ly, which is bit.ly/the Crossroads. That's THEXROSSROADZ. Also, if you want to donate to the Crossroads, you can find the donation link in the bit.ly, y'all. This is a labor of love, but love ain't free. And if you think it is, go tell your landlord that you love them. Right? So
that's always funny.
Hey, I'm just saying, if love gonna pay the rent, then you know what I'm saying, let's see how that works out for y'all. But so we have a change to the cast of the show.
Change to the cast. Yes.
You are officially Mrs. #Boo.
I am.
Not that she just got married, y'all. She just changed her name.
Yeah, I did. So it's so funny because people talk about like how hard the process is, throughout. And so I think I had that in my brain. So, I made the decision when you get married and you're filling out your application, they ask you right then, like, what is the intended name for one party or another, in this case, the bride, right? And so, so I'd already legally changed my name at that point, but then it's, getting all of your documents to reflect that. And so that is the part that everyone talks about. That's a process because you have to really think about all the places that you're named.
Mm.
I'm like,
Hey,
where everybody
yeah,
knows your name. It's
right.
all over the place. So, Social Security, is the first stop. And then from there you can do your ID, your driver's license, your passports, but credit cards and things like that. But then I was thinking even like going to the doctor, you have to alert those, and the
Hmm.
dentist and the,
Yeah,
everything. So
that's
yeah.
crazy, and that's something that a lot of men don't think. I don't think I would ever think about that. Like if I get married and I'm just like, so you got that taken care of yet? Are
Right.
you are you allowed to live
Yeah.
here
And
legally?
he didn't give me any kind of grief about it. I actually got it done right before our anniversary so that
Mm.
it could be a surprise. And the way that I intended to surprise him, he never read the thing that I set in place. So I had to just one day say,
Hello.
"Hey, this is done." So there
we're
went my whole,
we're not that smart.
yeah,
Not
but it's okay.
we don't pay attention to details like that. We're big picture.
But I mean, like, I literally gave him something to read, and it got put down,
But
and
you've
that
been
was it.
calling yourself that for a minute, so he was like, "This is normal." Like,
Well, yeah,
we,
until we were filling out some paperwork, and he was like, "Well, I guess you're still, and was giving,"
oh,
and then I was like, "Oh, you didn't even."
oh,
Like,
you didn't even read. Oh,
so I
okay.
had to. That's when I had to say, like,
Uh-huh.
"Oh, you didn't read
You
what I
had to shut
gave
him
you."
up real quick. That's what it was because he was trying to get smart. Oh, oh, that's what we doing for your information. Here, then. I mean, I can change it back since you.
Well, I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
actually, I'm over here now." So yes,
we know you ain't
Mrs.
doing that.
Hashtag Boo. No,
Right.
no, we in
So,
that thing.
speaking of new names, for those of you who are newly subscribed to the channel, we want to make sure that
Oh yeah,
yeah, thank y'all.
let's do it.
We do shout out
Absolutely.
our new subscribers. If y'all didn't get a shout out last week, let us know and send us a message to our DM. You can find that in the Bitly, because we want to make sure that we acknowledge and thank our new subscribers. So,
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and do that. We have new subscriber Renfar87, Diva2314.
hey,
Nisi Tracy is actually a family member already, but she watched last week's live and made sure
mm,
that we knew she was there. And then Dame Crawford was an active participant last week
and subscribe.
during our and subscribed as well. And so we definitely had more subscribers, but some of you, I believe, are on private settings. And so it
Mhm.
just doesn't tell us. So if you want to be shouted out, you want your name out there, send us a DM either on Facebook or Instagram. Both are at the Crossroads, as you can see here at the bottom, and we'll be happy to shout you out.
Bam. Y'all, we be taking care of business early in the show so that we can get that. Also for the newly subscribed and for those who might be watching for the first time, our playlist of our past lives are on the YouTube channel. So while we do want you to actively participate in the live show, our past live shows and our past pre-recorded shows, there's playlists for those that you can check out the old content during the week, kind of catch up, get familiar with the show. It's like, we invite you to our home, look around, kick your feet up, you know what I'm saying, get comfortable. It's not somewhere where you have to really behave unless you
Right.
disrespect somebody, but because we misbehave too. That's what we do on this show.
Right.
This season I'm gonna be a little bit more tame this season, but we will have some content to where I get to be a little bit more my naked as far as personality is concerned. I'm gonna keep my clothes on. It ain't that kind of show.
Oh,
Unless
well, somebody might come
I
here for
mean,
that.
unless we doing Crossroads Uncut,
Well,
you
we're gonna
know.
have to get some money for that. That's okay.
Y'all
OnlyFans.
be in her body rolling.
Yeah, if that's what
Mm.
y'all want, you're gonna have to pay for that.
I
We're
was
not gonna put bars
yeah,
out there for free.
yeah, I was praise dancing last week. Last week you got the praise dance.
That is so hilarious.
Right, right,
So
right.
yeah, you guys say hi to us. We want to hear from you in the comments. But let's go ahead and kick the show off. Some
Yeah,
things that we want to
so
talk about.
Yeah, so trending topics. There was one trending topic that kind of, it's not really a new topic, but it was trending. So there was this video that went out.
Do you
This
want to show
couple.
it?
Yeah, let's go. Let's I won't even introduce it. We'll show it and then we'll just talk about it.
Okay, let us do that. Ba, 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 ba. Oh, I'm giving somebody some extra coins that don't
Right,
care.
right. With the jingle.
All right, let's see. Hopefully we get a sound.
Steak and some potatoes. Okay.
No, don't bring no check on potatoes. No, bring a check. I'm paying for my meal and your meal. I'm not paying for your kids' meal. No.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not paying for their kids' meal. No.
So you don't think you owe me after having me wait an hour and a half?
I told you I owe you. I owe you when I take you out
Okay,
again.
and so you're gonna pay for my kids' food.
No, I'm not doing that.
Can you please go ahead and
I'm not doing that. No. Hold up, beautiful. Hold up. Don't do that. Why you not
Bring two, please.
What's your name, Kiera?
Bring 2 orders.
Why should I do that, Kiera?
Because you sitting right here on the desk.
I was late to the date.
You bring 2 orders.
But I said, why would I get her kids food? Why would I get her kids some food?
Because
they with their daddy.
She was right here for all of this today.
I'm not paying for all that. No, I'm not paying for all that.
Go ahead and bring.
It is too early in the season for me to have made the promise to watch my cousin. Because I only have cuss words to respond to that video.
That was
a
something
lot.
else.
That was a lot. All right, so take it away, Dre.
Okay, so there were a lot of things going on that I saw. First, she just took the liberty of starting to order this food. Mm-hmm. We got more details that he was an hour and a half late. He apologized. He said, I got you. Presumably, I'm going to make it up to you for being late. In his mind, making it up to her was, I'll take you out again. In her mind, it's buy an extra meal for my kids. He also said that the kids were at home with their dad. So there were like a lot of things jumping out at me. I'm sorry. I laughed at first because the server got right in the shot.
Right. I was gonna bring that.
Like, I know this gonna be on social somewhere.
Right.
Let me post up. But yeah, so this whole entitled situation, and anybody that doesn't know, I love being a woman. I love women. I'm a champion for women. I'm a coach of women. I'm an advocate for women, all of that. But at the same time, when you full of mess, I'm there as well. I'm going to champion you to what is right all the time. And that's not right. Like, would you do that? Would you even do that to your parent? Like, even a grandparent? I'm just thinking, like, if I was out to dinner with my mom, I'm not gonna, and I don't have kids, but if I did, just like start ordering a meal, like, you need to take care of your grandkid. Like, you can't control somebody else's pockets from the other side of the table. That's ridiculous. Right. The fact that kids were with their dad, hopefully they are already eating or have an eating plan. If they don't, you probably shouldn't be out on a date. Mm-hmm. You should probably be at a job, making sure that your kids can eat. Like, that's out of control. So yeah. I don't think he was wrong at all. I think he handled that better than most. He probably could have got up and walked away. Mm-hmm. And just left her there with the meal that, he was supposed to pay, or he said he was going to pay for. Like, he could have just left her like, I'm going to just take this meal to go and she can worry about that on her own. So, yeah, I just think sometimes in our haste to make men be providers or whatever it is, right? Like, you're skipping a whole bunch of things. This is I don't know what date they were on, but let's just assume it's an early date. Like, you don't even really know this man like that. And then even in a situation like, I'm married now, and there's still certain things I don't assume. I will ask my, like, do you want to do this? Do you want me to do this? Like, it's just being considerate of somebody else's feelings and what they have going on. And as long as you are inconsiderate, that's as long as you have to keep going on these first dates.
Right. I can do a whole show on this.
I know. Let's take it back to the old days. You got 1 minute. Go.
Right. Because listen, we even talked about, like, in pre-production, like, hey, we're gonna talk about this, but because we know that this can be a rabbit hole, now let's acknowledge, number one, the hour and a half late. Like, come on, dude. I don't know.
Why was she still even there?
Well, let's say this. Maybe they were in communication. Maybe it was something like super drastic and she was that understanding. But even then, she had every right to leave, regardless of what was going on. And I wouldn't have blamed her one bit for just leaving. After 15, 20 minutes, sometimes that's a bit much. But 30 minutes, 40 minutes,
hour and a half.
An hour and a half. That's a long time, But that still doesn't entitle you, No. You're entitled to an apology. You're entitled to whatever he deems necessary to make it up if you still want to see him again. But talking about feeding your kids, like, no, ma'am. You know what I mean? That's no.
Like, if you want to make it up to me,
Right.
these kids,
right?
And a steak and some potatoes, not chicken fingers, not
now.
Like that was going to the daddy.
Right? Exactly. Exactly. She's like, hey, I brought us some food home. Like, knock it all the way off. Like, ma'am, we know what this is. But yeah, just that beyond that scene, just a lot of the entitlement that goes into dating in general, it's a lot, you know what I'm saying? And so he was very patient in that situation. That's provided that the situation was even real, because you already know a lot of people do skits and stuff like that.
Acting, right.
Now, the server was probably more out of line than anybody. She all in cahoots, she all up in the shop. What you mean? Like, ma'am, go somewhere. You know what I mean? We know you got a job, but it ain't enough to be doing what you're doing right now. Because I definitely would have been talking to a manager, talking about, I'm only paying for this, and this. They can have their little date together, and if she want that to come out her check for these steak dinners for these kids, then so be it. But to the fellas, I would say, hey, be on time for the date, bro. Be on time for the date.
Let's do that.
To the ladies, let's cut the entitlement, because I would say this: what were the kids going to eat if he was on time?
She would have found something else.
Right. No, but if the penance for him being late was, you got to feed my kids, then what would the kids have eaten if he were on time?
I would have said she would have found something else to put the meal on. Either, even if it wasn't a penance, it probably just would have been, oh, you had a good time with me. Well,
if you want to keep having a good time,
there you go.
Listen.
Sound like you've seen this before. Has this
hey, what did Kanye say? Oh,
I don't know if we should go to Kanye. We gonna get
this probably ain't the greatest. This ain't the greatest Kanye quote time in life. Yeah. But yeah, like, y'all knock it off. Just knock it off. First of all, what kind of place were they at anyway? We talking about some steak. That place don't even look like they had steak. It looked like they had chicken fried steak, but you know what I'm saying?
Right. Now that's hilarious.
That wasn't exactly Ruth Chris, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever. But moving on, because we'll bring that back into like a pre-recorded episode when we're doing a relationship topic or something like that. But that was just something that we were training and we wanted to kind of touch on.
And also let's invite our viewers, if you're not watching with us live and you're watching this later, please go ahead and drop us some comments down at the bottom of the video, because we absolutely interact even after these shows have broadcast,
as well as things that you want us to talk about or cover later on. We definitely do take topic suggestions, so we want to make sure that we're making it dope for our audience. This is y'all's show. The lives are definitely for y'all to come and interact and give us new ideas and stuff like that. But in other news, Coach Prime back in the news. So Jackson State played in the Celebration Bowl, which is the national championship for HBCUs. And they played against North Carolina Central University for the championship. And so that was a highly anticipated game and everything else, because Jackson State had gone undefeated this year. And this is the best record that they've had. And this would have been the first time since Grambling did it some years ago that they would win the Celebration Bowl. And the MEAC, which is the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, against the SWAC, which is the Southwestern, which is where Jackson State is, and Southern and Grambling, all them. But the MEAC always wins the Celebration Bowl. The SWAC is always.
And that continues.
That continues. So, so for those who know, Jackson State did lose the game, and this is how Coach Prime's tenure at Jackson State ends. And so there was a lot of criticism about him leaving in general, but then he's leaving with a loss. So put in the comments what you think that that does to his legacy. Does it affect his legacy? A lot of people were saying Jackson State came in a bit too arrogant and think that they had the game won already before it was even played. But I will say it was an amazing game. It was a back and forth. There was a shootout. I hadn't got an opportunity really to see Jackson State play this season, but I can say that Shador Sanders, that boy's the truth, at quarterback. And I think that he'll do well at the next level with some training and adjustment. But I think one of the biggest things was that, so the game went into overtime, and the other North Carolina had scored first in overtime. And so Jackson State was driving back, and they would have tied it in overtime, but the pass was dropped by the tight end in the end zone. But it was a white guy. And so that did not go unnoticed by the math. So a lot of people don't know that there are white people at HBCUs, in the athletic programs. But the fact that, just under some of the biggest lights in the HBCU championship, it was a white guy that dropped the pass that ultimately lost them the game. It was, it was a deal. So people had their thoughts about that, but they also had thoughts about Coach Prime was encouraging him and consoling him in the locker room. And a lot of people were criticizing him for doing that, like on camera, like the cameras are always on him, and he does that. He's pushing social media. He's pushing, the university via that, but he gets a lot of criticism for most of the things, or perceivably most of the things that he does, being on camera. So what are your thoughts about, like, one, we do know that he's never found a mic that he doesn't like.
Right.
We do know, like, he's not shy about the mic, but do you think that's a plus or a minus for him that perceivably the cameras are just like always on, and it seems like it's on purpose?
Oh, this is definitely, I won't say definitely, because many celebrities will say all press is good press, right? I think for him, he knows how to handle it. For someone else, it would probably be, a minus, because, you're never off. And your moments are being stripped down all the time. If you do good, if you are a little shady, like whatever the situation is, you wind up being under a microscope, and you don't even have time to kind of get yourself together, because the mics are always there. But for him, he is definitely a trained professional, media and otherwise. And so I think, he does very well. And then even in those situations, like this one, where they try to flip it against him, he's ready for it. I don't think I've ever seen him crumble under the pressure, if you will. So I think, it works. I'm kind of sad that they didn't win it, not necessarily for him, but the young men really have, worked hard. Not that the other side hasn't, but, to even hear, I'm not familiar with the history, but to hear that, the SWAC always loses, I think, it would have been a great exclamation point, if you will, on this journey to have taken it all the way. if you will. And so, to not have done that, it doesn't negate everything that was done or has been done. But it would have been great to see it.
Yeah. So, so you're saying, considering the doors that have been open for Jackson State in his tenure in front of the camera, he's made for this. Absolutely. And I think just like you do have to take the good with the bad, because of the fact that even though it seems like he's putting on a show, it's this show that put Jackson State in front of the world,
Right.
Under his coaching. And so sometimes you can't win and you don't get to choose, so it's like those who watch it, we can't have it both ways. We can't have the camera on. Like if the cameras were never on, we would be thinking, oh, well, what's going on behind, what's he saying? You know what I mean? We wouldn't be as excited. And I think, like I said last time, he's a victim of his success there, because this is what we know. If he were losing games, nobody would care that he's leaving. It wouldn't be a topic. Like, we call for coaches' head. We call for heads to roll when teams are losing. We'd be like, get him out of there, regardless of his success in the NFL and otherwise and everything else. Like, if you're not winning, you don't get the love. And so now that he came and all he did was win, I think he only lost 5 games in the 3 years that he was there. 6 with this one. That, it's a big deal for him leaving and he's abandoning them. And it's like, no, he's just going elsewhere to win. He left the program better than he found it,
Right.
And the coach that he was pulling for to get the new job got the new job. More than that, he created opportunities for his coaches to go to Colorado with him. Like, he chose those coaches. He took coaches that were with him at Jackson State, where they can make more money and get better opportunities. He's taking players from Jackson State over to Colorado. He's making opportunities for his children to be able to play on a bigger stage as well. So I think just that narrative that you're only as good as the last thing that you've done is what's coming into play. People only really love you when what you do benefits them or fits their narrative. And so the minute that he made a decision for him, and not just for him, but we don't look at it like that. Now the narrative is different because it doesn't benefit those who wanted him to stay. And that's why he's getting crucified. So I don't think that it tarnishes his legacy at all. I think, hey, you can't win them all. But he definitely did great things for the university and for HBCUs in general.
Yes. Shout out to Prime. Shout out to the HBCUs. And then, from my understanding, one of his staff members was promoted to head coach. And so everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it was someone that the players love and were excited about and stuff like that. And Prime did say that he wanted to see TC get the job like after him, and that's who ultimately ended up getting the job. So I don't know how much of his influence came into play with the decision for the new coach. I wouldn't believe that it was a major part of it. On top of him being qualified, he's from the area. He played for Jackson State as well. So so he's homegrown. So I think that was really dope that he was able to get the job. Stuff like
so
that.
What happens? This is funny, but Deion Sanders with the who is swag? I'm swag. What happens to that whole campaign?
Who is swag if I ain't swag?
Yeah, it's like.
Well, I guess it's safe to say he ain't swag no more.
He ain't swag. Welcome to the pack, though. We
right.
I won't say we because I think we
actually
are on our way out.
Who is Pac?
Who is Pac? I'm not Pac no more.
You ain't Pac no more.
No.
So for those who are unaware, Dre is an alumni of the University of Southern California. Fight on, Trojans. So she's big time when it comes to it. Especially she don't say much until the one game of the year.
So true. I try to keep it tucked until.
Like, and here's the crazy part. This is coaching for USC or UCLA always comes down to one game. If you lose that game, to me, I think, has anybody lasted 2 years losing?
I'm like, well, in the past, so by the time I got to school, we were turning it around. So back, you know, we had an 8-year losing streak like in the 90s. So, somebody made it, I guess, but not
necessarily. It may not have been the same coach.
Right. But I don't know if they were changing every 2 years, though. That would have been 4 coaching changes. And I don't think that happened.
Has SC ever had a black coach? I don't remember SC ever having a black coach.
Well, not in our time, but the athletic. Well, I don't know. I don't know if Mike Garrett was ever a coach. I know he played and then he became the athletic director, but I don't know if he ever coached.
Gotcha.
That's a good point. I don't think so.
I know UCLA had one for a second, but he lost and they fired his ass.
Yeah, that was all they needed. They was like, "Yeah, well, we tried."
Yeah. So y'all, for those who aren't familiar with just the culture, when it comes to the USC UCLA crosstown rivalry, it gets real. Like if you go to,
we currently hold the victory bell. Hey.
Yeah, and they got to duct tape Tommy Trojan up, and people camp out protecting the mascots and stuff. And I think y'all did. Y'all caught him sleep. I don't know if somebody fell asleep.
Yeah, it was the changing of the guard didn't happen fast enough, or somebody fell asleep.
Y'all
caught him slipping with the Cardinal and gold paint on the board. I was so proud of those kids. I was like, I guess that's technically vandalism, but I was like, good for y'all.
Damn.
Yeah, and it was like in the papers and everything. It was
right. That was here. I've never seen Tommy get caught slipping though.
Because we don't.
Oh,
if you stay ready,
you ain't got to get ready.
You ain't got to get ready.
Quoting the great philosopher Sugar Free.
Yes, all day.
He got a new joint out that I saw. I was like, damn.
Was it good?
It was sugar free. Okay. I remember me.
I know he just got married. That's the only thing I've seen.
I think Instagram. it was something along the line. But me and Maisha was talking some years back about like how we used to just rock with Sugar Free. And then when you listen to what he's saying, it's like he's saying some horrible, horrible things.
Like, I can't believe
like, goddamn, like abuse, pimping, rape.
Yeah.
All of it.
Some of your favorites,
right? And people just twerking away,
word for word, bar for bar,
for bar. Yeah. I can't even. As fast as he say it too.
Wait, what did he say?
Oh, you know what he said. I'd rather give you my.
Yeah. Censor.
Right, I'm working hard at this too.
Be the bar across your mouth. No, you're doing very well. You're doing very well.
I have to donate.
They might want to pick us up on a major network, and you won't even have that much work to do. You'll be like, I already know how to do this.
One of my students came and repeated back a famous quote that I guess is still out there just the other day, and I'm like, this is not gonna die, is it?
Oh no.
Apparently somebody had it saved.
Of course.
I know.
Screenshots and screen grabs and records. They are forever.
Yeah. That will. Forever. I said it. I meant it. I don't apologize for it. I still meant it.
All right. Well, we have 2 more stories we want to get to. So what's next?
So speaking of people who've done things for the community, Percy Miller, y'all know,
Big P,
Master P is in the social media news, with him and Romeo having a very public beef. I'm not certain where it sparked from, but Romeo had posted on, I think it was Instagram or was it Twitter? I think it was Instagram.
It was Instagram.
Yeah, a very long message to his dad.
It was so long. I was trying to make it big. So I was like, and then slide it down. Yeah, that was a lot to read, young man.
Yeah, he was going in on his dad, and to kind of paraphrase, basically saying that Master P is not the man that he portrays himself to be on social media, that he lives for social media, that mom was right, kind of alluding to he wasn't the father that he portrays himself to be, that his artist, specifically Romeo, wasn't getting paid for the music that they had done with him and everything else. And so there's kind of two sides of the coin on this one,
Mm-hmm.
because there are those who are like, damn, that, that's unfortunate that P is like that, like believe in Romeo. But also the fact that they're calling Romeo entitled, like P provided this life for him, and that he wouldn't be who he was had P not done the work that he did, in music, in the community, in business, and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're calling him like ungrateful, spoiled, entitled, and things of that nature. So your thoughts on the message, first of all?
Yeah, and so two things can be true at the same time, which we'll probably say that again a little later for another story,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
a couple things can be true at the same time. I'll say, from what I understand, all of this really stemmed from Romeo seeing his dad make a post about DJ Twitch, his passing, his suicide, and feeling some kind of way that Master P either hasn't shown that same regard for his own child's loss. So, for those who do not know, he has a daughter, or had a daughter that overdosed, and this was after a very long battle with addiction. For those of you who watch Growing Up Hip Hop like me, you've seen some of the scenes with the daughter and Romeo's sister, and losing a family member, a child, a sibling, has to be one of the most horrific things, especially, I won't even say especially, but also dealing with, an addiction, something that it looked like the family was really rallying to try to help. And then, this happens. There's that guilt there. Of course, there's the loss and the loss and the longing and all of that. So I think there's a lot of pain that just hasn't been dealt with, period. Right. From what we can see, P is a hustler. He might have just been like, okay, my daughter died. What's the next deal I can close? Like, and who knows how he processes things, or maybe it's to avoid altogether. Like, it's not a right or wrong, it just is. And then we're talking about generational differences as well, because those kind of jabs are being thrown too, right? Like, well, Romeo, you're entitled because I gave you everything. I came from nothing and I had to blah blah blah. All of that ties into how he deals with certain things, and then of course how Romeo would in turn deal with it. And so I will say, from following Romeo on the show and kind of seeing how he handles a lot of things, I'm not a fan. I don't think he's wrong. I just think, again, it how he processes. He grew up in the public eye, right? We're talking about a microphone always being in your face. Like this, he was a kid, you know, and kind of got brought into this whole no limit lifestyle and all of that. Like, what did that do to him socially? And then on top of that, the world changed, right? Everything's on social media, everything's around social media. So the things that we used to in house, that there's no such thing.
Right. Yeah. Even if you're trying to sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I will say that, the generation gap can play a part where, P's generation, um, or let's not even just say just generational, just the removal gap from, it being his daughter to Twitch, right? Um, we don't get to determine or choose how someone grieves, and we don't know how he grieved privately. You know what I'm saying? Twitch's death was very public, kind of, took the world by shock. And so I don't think that him acknowledging one death takes away from him grieving the other. I think they're just very different. I don't know if he had a relationship or not with Twitch or whatnot, but just acknowledging that death, I don't see that as wrong. And so I think that might have been more of Romeo possibly grieving and wanting to see more from his father, who comes from a time where men weren't always given that space to grieve, or to feel publicly. You know what I mean? This generation definitely has more room to do so. And not to say that everyone doesn't have the room, but it's more common and accepted and everything else to be very just outspoken and emotional and saying the first thing that's on your mind, because that's how social media works, like that, the Twitter effect is, hey, I'm thinking this, let me give you these 140 characters, or whatnot really quick, and it's out there before you can take it back, etc. So but then, I mean, there could be, a sense of entitlement and a lack of gratitude and stuff like that. Like, even if he were right, I'm just not a fan of those things playing out publicly, because it just
Yeah.
feels like there's an agenda there,
And on
why?
both sides, because I think they both accused each other, right?
Yeah. Well,
Of certain things.
yeah. So it's kind of like, what's the end game? Like, these are things that can definitely be said to one another. You could have easily text those things to each other versus, like, why does the world need to be involved in your personal beef?
Right. And I don't think the world does, but I'll just say from what I understand, what I've read, it because that was said, right? Like, why didn't you pick up the phone and call me? This is P. And so Romeo's like, I've tried to do this and you're not listening to me, or you haven't returned my calls, or you've shut me out, or whatever. And of course, only God knows what is actually true. But I think sometimes people are going for kind of like the biggest thing, right? Like, yeah, maybe I called you, I reached out to you, and I didn't get the response that I wanted. So I'm going to, right, drop this nuke, if you will. You can't not reply to me, because now everybody's watching. And I don't, that's not fair either, to ambush people. But I think, there's some of that going on as well.
Yeah.
Of just, everybody's looking now. What, Pops? What are you going to say now? And you have to say it in a certain way, or you have to say certain things because your image is on the line.
Right. It's just tough all the way around. And families do these things. I just can't imagine, as much as of a daddy's boy that I am, I can't imagine beefing with my pops publicly like that. He's definitely done or said some things that have rubbed me the wrong way, and I know for a fact I rub him the wrong way often. Not on purpose, it's just my person. I irritate him. He loves me, but we're just a lot alike, and so I get under his skin. Admittedly, with a little bit of pleasure, because my dad being irritated is some of the funniest stuff. See, it's funny to me. I don't try to do it, but once he's there, it's kind of like here we go.
Well, those of you that are watching, I'm gonna let you finish that comment. I'm doing a little Kanye, but I do want to prompt those of you who are watching. Have you ever had conflict with your parents that hopefully you haven't done on social media, but what do you think is the best way to handle it with the generational differences? Perhaps some of you are parents and now your kids are in the social media generation. How do you think you would handle a letter to you on Instagram?
Right. That somebody probably had to point out to you.
That part. Like, hey, you see little JoJo sent you
like, I've seen families beef. We've seen this play out. And we be like, ooh, and you in the back, hey, they respond. You see what they say? Screen. Like, yo, I can't even. The worst I think is probably my baby sister. She'll block you in a second. Like, she loves blocking people. But
yeah.
I think within the last year, I just recently got unblocked from like a 10-year block.
That was a long time. Yeah, one of my sisters blocked me before, but I didn't really. I won't say I didn't care, but it didn't. It was just like okay. And
Right. I mean, she was
it was
still
over.
calling me. Yeah,
I was
ain't
to say it was
blocking
just
from life.
it was like
Yeah.
a social because you understand that, right? Like it's just like if you're for me, niece or nephew or something like they don't want you to see certain stuff that they do, and they'll just
Mhm.
you know. And now you have the ability to show certain things, right? The close friends list and the this and the limited friends. So it's a little different from before. Or sometimes people just get mad and
Or
they
that.
just
Yeah. I
because I
don't
definitely have a
really.
family member blocked that I'm like
Yeah, I don't necessarily block a whole lot of people. I mean, I have some people blocked that's just like
I
violate
don't
my
like
boundaries.
negativity. I
Yeah.
don't like
So
negativity.
now what I've done, because I do keep my follower count up, I don't necessarily delete, but I will unfollow. So they can still see what I post, but I just don't see their posts,
Mm,
And most recently, I've just been on the kick where just our black women and black men in our community relations, especially when it comes to relationships and stuff like that. I'm really just curating that negativity. I'm just really over the blame game and the pointing fingers and women this and men that. And so to change that mindset and also just change the algorithm, you know.
hmm
And I talk about this like, plug my new series that
Hey,
I'm
Charity.
yeah, that is coming in 2023. I talk about curating my social media existence. Like we control what comes into our world via social media. And people kind of complain about seeing this and people talking about that. You don't have to. And when you
hmm
understand like how it works, the algorithm is meant to keep you engaged with whatever you interact with the most. So if you interact with negativity the most, or you respond to it, or you're commenting, or you're going back and forth, that's what they're going to keep feeding you. They're going to feed you that content. They're going to feed you those people that you interact with the most. The people whose page you go to, that's what they're going to keep feeding you to keep you engaged.
hmm
So yeah, so don't respond to public, text or phone. Respond in person. I wouldn't address the situation to one to know about my child. Right. And I agree with that. It's a lot. And so I don't know, like I just keep coming back to what is the
The end
purpose?
game.
What's the end
Yeah.
game, of doing that?
I think it's just, I think it's, I'm hurt and I want you to know that I'm hurt and or to hurt you in a way that I know can really get to you, right?
Mhm.
Because I can imagine, Romeo, if you want to say this generation, that generation, or whatever, they are very in touch, in tune, right, with feelings. And not that our generation wasn't, but we just know how to tuck and roll, right? But they are like, I feel this way, and I want everybody to know that
Yeah.
I'm feeling
Yeah.
this
Now,
way.
but is that being in tune or is that just being emotional and quick triggered or whatever,
Well,
right?
in tune and okay with express. That's what I said. I don't think that we're not in tune.
Hmm.
But many of us are like, I recognize I have an emotion, but I am then going to either not acknowledge it. I'm going to do something that's more productive. It's just like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna move past it. I'm gonna keep. Here's our favorite. I'm a push pass or I'm a
Hmm.
press pass
Hmm.
type of
Or
situation.
I'm a power through. That's the new.
Power through.
Mhm.
But these kids are like, no, I'm not. Even
Right.
with how the careers that they choose, or the fact that they're not necessarily choosing careers, they're like, okay,
Mhm.
how do I feel over here? I'll work this job until I don't feel it anymore. I'm gonna go do this. I don't want to do it anymore. And the same with this access to social media without a regard of like consequences or the fact that this lives forever or that this will hurt somebody. It's just like, I just got to get this off of me. This is how I feel in the moment. And
Mhm.
and that is all.
And I think that's the problem. It's for the moment, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so one thing that I've learned in therapy that was like very helpful and kind of profound was my therapist teaching me how to she's always saying that feelings are valid, but feelings aren't facts, right? And so she said, but all emotions are good, which I have trouble accepting that, right? Especially when it comes to anger. I hate being angry, and I hate my anger specifically because of where I go with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what she kind of works with me on is she's like, no, lean into it, because she's saying your emotions are just trying to inform you of something, right?
Mm.
You know, and so it's kind of like when you're happy, it's informing you that something good is going on. When you're angry, it's informing you of something that you are passionate about that's not necessarily going the way that you would like it to go. You know what I mean? And so like anger is really passionate about a specific topic or situation or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But also it's sometimes that anger or that emotion is momentary, because how many times have we responded to something immediately that we don't necessarily even have clarity on, right?
Yeah.
And so we start doing this and we respond, and now we put it out here in the metaverse, and you don't get that back. You know, even if you delete it, somebody's done screenshot it, sent it, blah 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 blah. Like you can't
Right.
take that back. It doesn't erase. It's worse than ink. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like I'm feeling this right now, and I say it right now, and I cause whatever reaction right now. You know what I mean? And so I might cause you that hurt, and even if I can come back or trying to apologize or whatever, the damage has still been done. You know,
Yeah.
and just because we might heal the wound doesn't mean that we haven't still left a scar.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And so I still think even in that emotional state, we have to be very, very careful of what we do and what we say, and not be so immediate, you know, in our response and our reaction to it.
Agreed. And I know this is probably a topic that we are going to expound about because we talked about that. I don't know. This might be a good episode to get the. You think we could get our parents on there? Would it turn into a thing?
We can get our parents here on an episode. You already know. Listen,
We definitely got to pre-record and
right?
edit.
You already know. David gonna come with all of the.
But I would say, and it was funny because hashtag Blue and I were talking about this yesterday. We were at Disneyland and remarking about these kids because on every ride we got on, no lie, after they tell you to buckle up and pull on the tabs and everything, the last statement on every ride was, "Please supervise your children." And I was like, it must be going down out here for them to have to do that. And he was like, you can't say anything because you're not a parent. I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to say if I see, right? So that leads me to this statement. So if you're a parent and you feel some kind of way about me saying something because I don't have any kids, I have participated in raising some children. I just have not birthed any. But I think it is helpful to create or curate an environment where children feel safe expressing themselves at home. Because I think what we're seeing, a lot of what happened to many of us, right? Like, you kind of, I won't say I wasn't brought up in a scene and not heard, but you definitely knew when not to speak. Right? Like you knew, you
Listen,
knew
all
when
the
it
damn
was,
time.
you knew when it was
When
open for
adults was
you,
in the room.
and you knew when to shut it down, right? And so, not that you should not have boundaries, because I believe that is so important, but these kids need a place to express that's not Instagram, TikTok,
Mhm,
Facebook, Snapchat, and anything else. Like
mhm,
they need a place to express. For some of them, they have found the ability to do that creatively if they are into performing arts and all of that. Some are writers, but some just really need to release whatever it is.
mhm,
And if they are not given that with you, then they're gonna embarrass the hell out of you on the internet. That's
mhm,
just whether they are saying something directly to you or they are just acting in a way that you're like, OMG.
mhm. Yeah.
So I think that is, that's important. And that's what we're seeing, especially for the celebrity kids that are growing up to be adults. They really probably weren't, you're not able to say anything in the house. and you better not say it on
Yeah.
the internet. And so now I'm an adult. You know, Romeo's 30 something years old, assuming he has his own money. You know, it's not the same money as his dad presumably has,
Mhm.
but you can take care of yourself. And so
Mhm.
now it's like, okay,
Right.
I'm gonna
And
say
do you
everything that
have
I couldn't
money
say.
that do you have money that he didn't provide him? You know.
Hmm.
Um, and
Yeah,
I
that's
think,
good.
um, I think it's very nuanced, right? So like in the work that I do provide spaces for students to express themselves. It's the way that that's done. It's the time that that's done that makes the difference. And so it's a fine line between allowing children to express themselves and being disrespectful.
Absolutely.
And so, but at the same time though, you have that place where you have a child that's upset and mad, and then we tell them how they're allowed to be mad when we as adults express it in whatever way we want. And so we are essentially wanting children to be more emotionally mature and in control than we are, because we revel in losing control. You know, oh, I
Mm,
cuss them out. I blah blah blah. I don't take this from nobody, right? And yet our children are expected to sit there and take it. You know,
that's good. That's
and
good.
so I think
So
there
can
are
we
some
model the behavior that we want them to
that we
exhibit?
express, right?
Hmm.
And so, but the thing is, we do that, you know, at work. Um, thank you. You got to keep joining us. I think that
Please, and
yeah,
subscribe if you haven't, so that you don't miss any episodes.
right. I do think it's very important to create, maybe even like, so I know I'll say this, and I know we got to move to the next topic too,
Hmm.
but in my next relationship, ideally I've always said that I want to create this space, even if it's once a week, to like, let's have this um no holds barred, honest, open conversation, right? Like where we're listening to hear no matter how much it hurts, instead of trying to tailor and cater how we feel. You know, I'm just like, say it how you feel it. Like, I'm not worried about hurting your feelings with what I say. Just say it because it needs to be said, instead of me carrying it and harboring it, right? And so if kids had that same space to be like, you know, F this, blah, 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 like, you know, but once that time is up, it's like, hey, now we going back to,
Hmm.
you know,
The structure.
this ain't just a free for all where you about to just talk back and, you know. But I do think conversations need to be had, because parents aren't always right, adults aren't always right, teachers aren't always right. You know what I mean? Um, and if you don't get the full scope of what's going on, you know, now that's not to say, you know, your kids, you know what they did, and sometimes, you know, the kid know they wrong and they about to lie about it. You know when they
I will
lying.
say, and they'll guilt you if
Yeah,
they
but
keep.
right, but sometimes it's better, let them express it, let them get it out, let them get the lie out. Listen to them.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because sometimes they just want to be heard. And when you hear them, because I do this at work all the time, I'm gonna hear you, and then I'm going to show you everywhere you went wrong with what you just explained to me. Right? They're not thinking about, it's just, I'm just gonna say this because I don't want to get in trouble. And now it's like, okay,
Hmm.
this is what's not adding up, blah 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 blah. How, or ask the questions, how could you have handled this better? What was a more productive way to do this? Why are you like, you know, all this other stuff. So I definitely think, and this is something that we can talk about further in a later episode, but we all want safe spaces, you know, in our relationships to express ourselves. And I do think that more than anybody needs to count for children too, you know,
Absolutely,
let them get it out.
absolutely.
So
And we've created this safe space for all of you.
bam.
And I do want to say, because I'm an analytics person, so I check our analytics almost daily, that men over the last month have
Been tuning in.
been tuning in. And so shout out to the men who are, finding this as a safe space, or find this as a space that you even want to connect to. I know, it's not often that, you have those spaces. So we're glad that this is one of them. I heard our RED, hashtag boo, was talking to the neighbor. They had a whole thing going on about the podcast. And so, that made me smile as well, that this is a place for everyone, women, we have things and points that we want to raise. Men, you have things and points, and Barzini gonna raise it on your behalf. Okay, he gonna raise it
Listen,
with two hands.
Listen, if anybody got y'all's back, fellas, I got y'all back. I say the things that most people and most men don't say because they don't want that smoke. I'm fine with the smoke. And
I'm not against you. Some days I don't understand. And so I'll sit here. I'll just sit here till I get it. Or I'll say, look,
I don't get it. Yeah. but I think that's part of healthy dialogue. And I was talking to my sister about, this today about how, like, for years, I've been on the women do this and equity, and y'all always talk about men, and while a lot of it's true, I don't think we're in this productive space to where we're truly able to see things from each other's lens and understanding that two things can be true. And a lot of conflict comes from the thought process that your experience somehow erases mine. So if you're saying men do this, right, and I'm hearing it and I'm triggered by what you're saying, I'm triggered because what I'm hearing from you is I do this, right? And then we start doing this thing, well, not all men or some men, or that's just the men you deal with. And that's such a cop-out response on both sides, and I'm guilty of it. I've said it. We know that when we're saying men and when we're saying women, it is not inclusive of all, right? And so we start getting into the whole splitting hairs with generalizations, and then somebody will thank you, Kimmy. We want you to come back.
Don't be a stranger.
Right. And so what we tend to do is we start deflecting from the real conversation because of the generalizations. And then the same people that have problems with generalizations will then use a stat. Right? And for those of you who love to use statistics, understand this. Statistics is literally the science of generalizing. Right? And it's understanding how statistics work. I won't get into it because we got to get to our next topic, but understand
this is an episode. We coming back. We can do it again.
We coming back. If for those of you watching, if you use statistics to corroborate any point that you are making, you are generalizing, right? And so now you have to tune in another time where I explain how you're generalizing if you don't already understand how you're generalizing. But speaking of generalizations, there's a whole lot of generalizations that are going on about our next topic, y'all. And this is the hot topic that's going on right now. Dre is my pop culture whisperer, so she lets me know everything that's going on. I've been watching a little bit, but I haven't been following the story the entire time. I know she hasn't either, but from what we've heard and known the discussions that are going on, the Tory Lanez trial, right? People are calling it Meg Thee Stallion trial, but she's not on trial. So
she's not on trial in the court.
She's on trial.
She's on trial.
In the court of public opinion, she's definitely on trial. But the in-court trial, Tory Lanez is actually on trial. And so on trial for allegedly shooting Meg in the foot, coming from Kylie Jenner's house and attending party there. Things kind of got out of hand, that there was an argument in an SUV and a shot was fired. I don't know if it was a single shot or more, but
sounds like shots.
Yeah, so she was subsequently shot in the foot. There's video footage of police stopping it, they being removed from the vehicle, Tory and the assistant Kelsey laying on the ground. Meg is backing up, visibly bleeding and leaving a trail of blood, and then getting on the ground, and then it kind of goes from there. So from your purview, this whole debacle,
it's a lot. So oh gosh, I don't even know. I hope I'm not too verbose, but I've had a lot of feelings since hearing about it. I mean, at first, when I say feelings, like I wanted to know she was okay. That was first, because all of this transpired in 2020. So this also perspective, right? This was July of 2020. So for those,
first of all, let's recognize that was a COVID year and they was at a whole ass party. But go ahead.
I was there, right? Like there were big things happening in the world, things that were impacting, like your activity could impact my life type of situation, right? So yeah, they were partying in July of 2020. All these things were going on in the world. There's police brutality, there's a murder, George Floyd, there's a whole global pandemic. We're not really sure what is happening next. We're in an election year. A lot of things were happening. So I was just kind of like, is she okay? Okay. Right. Like that was all I had.
Wasn't nobody okay in 2020?
Well, I meant like she's not dead.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That, I was just like, some in her foot, they get all the whatever out of her foot. Is she okay in that regard? And then I was just trying to focus on life. And then this thing kind of grew legs, right? Like then it became, Days of Our Lives and General Hospital. It's just turning into a thing. So at first, and probably mainly, a lot of this was about, Meg, and nobody's, believing her. They don't want to file charges against this guy because, she's a woman and there's misogyny in hip hop and, all of these things that we're trying to follow again in the wake of all this other stuff that's going on in our lives. And so I think a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon. I don't know how I felt. Honestly, I don't know that I hate to say I didn't care, but I don't think I was there, like to choose a side. Because I remember asking, like, who is this guy? Who is it that we're even talking about? I didn't have a clue. Since then, I've heard his name far too many times. But, I was like, okay, if it's true that nobody wants to really get into this because she's a woman, a woman in hip hop and, accusing a man, I think that's wrong. But I didn't really get into the facts. Now here we are, X amount of time later, and it can be flipped on its head now, right? Like this man is on trial and can actually be up for like something like 22 years or something like that. Like his whole life can be, and it probably still is, just even from the accusations and going the length of this trial, like things are going to be different for him. How do we feel now that the facts that we got in the beginning may not actually be facts?
Right.
And then what type of implications does that have on future crimes or accusations and things of that nature? Like I remember saying, and I still feel this way, that's why women don't speak up about certain stuff. Right. I remember saying that, like, this is why folks are just like, never mind, when it comes to sexual assault, whatever. It's just like, you know what? It's not even worth it because I have to go on trial my whole life, all of the decisions that I've made, good and bad, to combat somebody's action. Like the things that I've done in my life that have nothing to do with this situation are going to be on trial to keep this person from being implicated. Why do I even want to go through that?
Mm-hmm.
And now we're seeing that, she wasn't 100% honest. And as a result of that, again, his life is hanging in the balance, and that is completely unfair. We've seen that in the sports world more times than we probably want to count. We've seen that in the regular world, that somebody is crying foul to protect some piece of information that they don't want to get out. And that's what all this appears like. It's like, okay, yes. Was she shot? Absolutely. Did he shoot her? It's not looking like it.
Right.
Why would she say that he shot her? Oh, because there was some hanky-panky going on that we don't want the world to know. So it's best to kind of follow.
That she lied about.
Yeah. Let's follow this trail and create a scenario where, I mean, it's reasonable that he could have shot her. Because it was like, okay, they're in the car, they're arguing. He had a gun. They were arguing with each other, fighting. He shot wildly and caught her in the foot. But this other situation that nobody spoke about initially creates that reasonable doubt. It's like, maybe he didn't shoot her. Or, doesn't sound like he shot her at all. Because now
his
the
DNA
two girls.
Then they said his DNA wasn't on the gun. There was gunpowder residue, but they also in an enclosed, confined space in a car. But then they said her DNA, the assistant, what's her name, Kelsey's DNA was on there, but not his.
Right. And so, instead of telling the truth, because again, you got shot. that's not something that was made up, but because, I don't want to say that I was fighting with my best friend over this dude that I don't want anybody to know I was even dealing with. I'm going to create this other narrative that, at least from what, is kind of rolling out, nobody's corroborating. Even the best friend who said in the interviews, Kelsey's like, yeah, he did it. He shot her. And then gets on the stand like, I ain't seen nothing.
Right.
I know she was like, I'm not about that perjury life.
Right. I don't. Yeah. It just gets real messy. And so I think this narrative is really about believing women, or specifically believing Black women. Right. And that, I think therein lies the divide. Right. And so where women are like, and just you just alluded to, like, no one believes women. Right. But then when you flip the lens, and when you have domestic violence situations and the police are called, we've got history where a woman just has to say he hit me, whether he did or not, and he's in cuffs, he's going to jail. And we've seen that weaponized, time and again, in a lot of cases. So there's a lot of cases where it's true, and a lot of cases where it's not true. I firsthand have, I just remember before I left California, some neighbors were having an argument and he called the police. And then I heard her yelling, he hit me, he got a gun, he got a knife. Like, she just started like saying it, right? Because I heard her saying like, oh, you going to jail, you gonna go to jail, and so it's like you hear that kind of stuff, and it's like, another time, some other neighbors were arguing. I had company over the house, and I just hear banging and screaming and everything else, and it sounds like he is whooping her ass. And so, I left and I ran upstairs. I'm banging on the door to, answer, and I'm like, bro, you can't. He was like, bro, I didn't touch her. So I pull him out and take him, to my place. And my homegirl that was with me, she went in there to talk to her. And then she was like, nah, he didn't hit me. That was her like banging and throwing stuff around. You know what I mean? And so it's like, you hear this type of stuff. And while she's like, yeah, he didn't hit me, like, the whole complex can hear this. And had someone else called, because to us, like, I was right underneath them, it sounded like he was beating her up, because she's yelling and screaming and you hear banging and stuff like that. Right. So yeah, it gets real hard, and those lines get real blurred when you don't know the truth, right? And there are no investigations immediately, and then it's not, we know in social media, and in cancel culture, it's not about facts, it's about firsts, right? And so whatever narrative is put out first, that's taken as the fact, and now it's up to whomever to disprove it. So in this case, Tory shot Meg, right? And no, there's not a bit of evidence that will ever convince certain people that that's not true, right? Because the narrative and the truth is often akin to our own experiences, right? Like me as a man, it's hard for me to just outright believe someone, right? Because I've been lied on. I've seen people been lied on. I've seen people go to jail, right? Just because they're a man, and a woman said that he did this, right? And so the truth oftentimes is about it's in the eye of the beholder. And the problem is, two things can be true, right? Just my experience does not mean that women haven't had that experience. My experience doesn't mean that women have called the police or told somebody about something and she wasn't believed, right? There's a multitude of women that this has absolutely happened to, but also there's a multitude of men that have absolutely been lied on and cuffed and jailed and ridiculed and canceled. And hell, we'll take Chris Brown, not to say he didn't do it. He clearly did it. He admitted he's doing it, but that whole story, right? And so because the story came out that he hit Rihanna, that story came out first, not that Rihanna hit him, not that she started the physical altercation.
Right.
And so that came out later and nobody cared, right? Because we saw the pictures of her face. We saw what happened to her and the narrative. Well, it almost like it doesn't matter what she did because he's a man hitting a woman, and so he was the one that went to jail. And then they question, like, even though it came out like she was hitting him first, had he never hit her, had he called the police, and had the scratches and stuff like, on him, would she have gone to jail? And it's doubtful, right? Because it did come out and she didn't go to jail. Nothing happened. You see what I mean? And so like,
and she's gone on to become
right, and he's
even bigger than she was.
She's a billionaire. He had to rebuild his career. I mean, he's done well since,
but there's still
got
the whole
with the AMAs or whatever that award show was, like, that doesn't go away. You know what I'm saying? And like the saying, that quote that I love from the movie, if you can make God bleed, people will cease to believe in him. And so it's not about it being true. It's just about creating the inkling that it's possible that they did it, and the world is going to run with it. You can't catch up to that. You can't get in front of that, And so Meg can come out. If Meg got on the stand and said, you know what, y'all, I've been lying this whole time. Kelsey shot me, blah, 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 blah. There'll be some people, she lying, she just covering for Tory because now they back together. or whatever, like she's lied here, she's lied there. She mad at Tory because Tory slept with, or Kelsey because she slept with Tory. Like, who knows what's real, right? Because the narrative that was already out there is out there and you can't catch up to it. You can't change it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think, well, from what I'm seeing, she is definitely losing a lot of favor among fans and just random people alike. So yes, there are still going to be people, I'm sure, that will believe that he did it just because it was out there. But I definitely believe that the harm, to her credibility has been done to the point that, I don't think she'll get any justice. Like I said, she was still shot, but instead of telling the truth and allowing due process, and unfortunately it would have been her, if her friend actually shot her, which is what it sounds like, it would have rolled onto the friend. But it sounds like the friend even covered her butt. She's like, okay, I'm going to say this, strike this immunity deal, and then I'll get in the court and make sure that I don't lie on him so that, it casts this reasonable doubt for him. So she was the smart one out the bunch. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel man versus woman as much as I feel like, a soft spot, like for victims. Like, nobody wants to say that a victim is lying. Like that, right? Like, whether it's a man or a woman, nobody wants to come out and be like, you a lie. Like, it's a lie. Even if you don't believe it, there are not too many people who will come out and say you're a liar. Like, they'll just...
Yeah, it may not be a lie, but it definitely, if it was a man, there would be a lot more joking about it. Like, people wouldn't care as much.
Oh, absolutely. And that, that sucks.
Or they would be like if, let's say this, if Tory was the one that got shot, like, and Meg is being accused of Tory, well, what did he do? If she shot him, he must have did something.
Yeah. No.
That would be that there,
You're absolutely right about that. I'm just saying that in this case, she's gonna feel this for a very long time. Whatever she was trying to avoid, her having a personal relationship with him, and she didn't want anybody to know.
And I wonder why, like, because of who he is, how he looks, whatever. Okay.
Well, okay. So again, I didn't know who this guy. I had heard his name, but I wouldn't have been able to close my eyes and conjure up a picture. I had to like go find. And so from what I saw, it's like, okay, he's not like repulsive, but I think like the image that she has created for herself and the people that you have seen her with publicly, and she's tall, like from my understanding, she looks like and he's there's like
she over 6
there's
foot.
there's a mismatch with that, and so maybe she just was not comfortable with, but I could definitely see, and I
disagree with that comment.
Okay.
I disagree. I feel like media professionals, people that I think a lot of narratives are created to control people's reactions. Like they literally have whole departments for that. I get what you're saying. Like you do something, you can't control how someone responds to it. But when I'm speaking about the masses and stuff like that, like captions are created and curated and carefully placed, and stories are planted or not told, or narratives switched and changed to get in front of things. Like people have PR agents and all the stuff for that very thing, right? For the responses. But I think it actually is on brand for Meg's image when like, because she said like her sex life was on trial or being put out there. But ma'am, like this is your brand. Your brand is sex. So I don't understand how that hurts you. Like if you're making the separation between, your music and your real life, I get it. However, you're not an actress. Well, I mean, you've acted, but you're a musician, and the difference between artists and actors is when the camera goes off and they yell cut, the actor can go back to being themselves. They're just playing the character. With a music artist, the act never ends. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like that's the selling point. So even rappers, like if you're doing gangster music, you know what I'm saying, and then you come out like, "Hi, my name is Gregory." Like that doesn't match. They're like, "Oh, no one's gonna buy into you," because for the public, they have to believe you and believe your music. You know what I mean? And that's really only true in hip hop. We don't really like R&B, like After 7 talking about I give you the stars, the rain, the moon, the sun, and the mountains.
And the mountains. I love that song, honey.
Right.
Ready or not?
Yeah. I'll give you everything. And we know we didn't believe Faith talking about as soon as I get home. But yeah, I think just singers get a little bit more leeway usually as far as image is concerned, but where hip hop artists don't. So I don't think, me personally, someone knowing that she slept with somebody hurts her image. I mean, after this happened, she does WAP with Cardi, like it don't get that much more,
And I understand the separation, the need for separation, the desire for separation. But again, we're in a situation where your word can directly derail somebody's life. True. And I don't understand why it's more important for people to not know that we slept together than for you to go to jail. Unless I think they were talking, she was walking away from the vehicle at some point. So, my first thought was maybe she doesn't really know who shot her.
Yeah, I think that's what I heard when I first heard the story. Like she doesn't know, because I think this would be a little bit more clear cut, Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It could be, it could be, and I heard there's a bodyguard that's missing or something like that, or whatever.
Yeah, because he actually is now. I can't think of who. He's somebody else's bodyguard now, so he's He's gone. He's
So he
on
was in the
tour
car?
also. Yes, or he's another person that could corroborate whatever the story is, but he's gone. And then there's now an independent witness who lived in the place
As they
where all
saw a
this.
woman with a gun.
Yeah. So it's definitely sounding, and it sounds plausible, like when you put it all together. Like if I was on the jury, two friends beefing over a dude, and one just found out that you were sleeping with him.
Now, do we know if that
Would I have shot you?
was it his gun? Because I'm hearing like that he already had priors.
5'9", so he must be like 5'2".
Meg is only 5'9".
Maybe she wear them heels.
I thought she was taller than that.
I thought she was too. But I think she's definitely taller than him. That's the case.
That's clear. He's yeah, he looked like a little leprechaun.
The talls and smalls.
Right.
What was your question before that? I forgot.
I was saying, do we know that if it was his gun?
I believe. Oh gosh, I think the narrative was that it was, because I thought the whole reason that
I guess he was
got arrested in the first place was because he was in possession of it.
Right. So I think he's already got a possession charge. So then I heard that there was like he was begging her not to say anything because he's already got a charge or something like that. So
okay,
I don't know.
So all of this stuff is convoluted, right? So it could have been his gun. He wasn't supposed to have one. That could be why he's trying to like smooth everything, even though they're painting it like, well, he's apologizing because he did it. He's probably apologizing like, don't say anything because I can get in trouble over something that I didn't.
So yeah, he going to jail. I mean, he may not go for everything, but I think the possession, like if they don't get him for shooting her, but then does that mean if he's found not guilty, does Kelsey go on trial because somebody did it?
Somebody did it.
You know what I mean? And I don't find how you find him not guilty and then not bring up charges on her.
Oh, child.
So and that's not to say just because they find him not guilty, it still doesn't mean that he didn't do it. It just means that they didn't prove that he did it.
That he
without
did it, right.
a shadow of it, without reasonable doubt. So I don't know.
The people were quiet on this one, so I don't know how you guys feel one way or the other. Again, we are always sympathetic to. Oh, as soon as I said that, then comment popped up. Yeah, but yes, she was granted. She, as in Kelsey, to be clear for those who may not be following the laws of the best friend, was granted immunity, and then she came into court and flipped her whole story. And so that also, that doesn't sound like somebody that didn't do anything. But you never know. Oh, that's what you were saying. So because you've been granted immunity.
That's not something that I was aware of. I think she said it earlier as far as the immunity. But no, that makes sense.
But not necessarily even her, but to your point, like somebody did it,
Right.
Who
right, but that means
are they gonna pin it on him because they can't pin it on her? Like,
or I mean, but if he's found not guilty, like even if
he found not guilty, then
but that's the twist. If they believe she did it, then they have to let him go, and she can't be convicted if she's been granted immunity, and so then Meg doesn't get justice. And who knows? Maybe Meg is in on that. I don't know. Behind closed doors, like
that part, I didn't want to say it, but I was just like, you never know what kind of stuff.
People make up and I'll pay you this, but like,
I mean, she sounds like, oh God, I hate it, but people act every day. But we've really seen her go through some emotional turmoil
she was shot.
Yeah, and on camera, just recounting certain things, and you don't want to believe, like, oh, you're in on this master plan so that everybody can go free or whatever. It's just like,
I don't know. Like, I don't want to assume that, you know what I mean?
Of course not. Of course
but
not. We're just tossing around things. It's allegedly, and
it doesn't sound like she's going to get justice. I don't think justice is going to be done as far as like who shot her.
No. But also she had a hand on that. right? Like that, the fact that the facts are fuzzy because everybody has a different account.
And
So
everybody's and people have been
who do you
lying.
believe? Yeah.
Right.
If
Yeah.
you have a different account, I have a different account, another girl has a different account, and we were all in the same car. Either we have to pick one person to believe or you don't believe anybody. But in either case, yeah. Justice, I don't believe is going to be served either. I just think they'll figure out something, but and it'll go away.
Right.
So,
well, with that being said, what are your final thoughts on today's topics? Or pick a topic.
Right. I don't know. So many things. I just want to say happy holidays to all. Of course, we are about 4 days away from Christmas. I'm so excited to be home for the holidays because it's actually going to be 81 degrees on Christmas Day. And I'm like, nowhere in the world can you get this. Well, I won't say in the world, but nowhere in the States can you get this on Christmas. So I'm looking forward to a sunny day and spending it with family, and a second with the mister. So this is our second Merry Christmas, and we're just having
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. And also celebrated a birthday this week too. So happy birthday to my beloved. I am just over the moon that he was born because, my life is forever changed as a result. So we've been celebrating, and his birthday's before Christmas, and then mine, of course, is after Christmas. So just looking forward to that time together and to unwind. And I would just encourage everybody with all the things that have been going on. We didn't really get into the story about Twitch, even though we're aware of that. Just everybody, and it's a cliche saying, like, being kind to yourself, taking time for yourself, self-care, self-love, all of those things. But we really just want to encourage you to do that. Like, and what does that look like for you? There are several Instagram accounts and Twitter accounts that can give you a full list of things if you really can't think of something to do for yourself. But I would encourage you to do something for you, even if it's, again, just unplugging, taking the day, taking a moment, going for a walk, going for a drive, whatever you can do to honor yourself, to feel good about yourself in this season. It's a hard time. It is a well-known fact that at the end of the year, and generally at the beginning of the year, there's a lot of loss. That it's a heavy time for mortuaries and the like. So some of you may be experiencing a loss in this season, or there may be remnants of the losses that you've already experienced, and you're carrying that into the holiday season. It might be your first Christmas without somebody. It may be many Christmases without someone that you love, but you still have that longing and that loss. And so, just from our heart to yours, we absolutely, love and care about each of you. We don't take it for granted that you tune in to kiki with us, but we care about you. We do this to have fun, of course, but also we're doing this to connect with men and women that are in our age bracket. Some of you might be a little younger than us. You might be a little older than us. But we're doing life together, and we want to do it in the very best way possible. So happy holidays to each of you. And we hope to see you for the next live and into the new year when season 2 drops.
Right.
Those are my thoughts.
And so, just to echo the comment, we didn't talk about Twitch, but rest in peace, and condolences to the family. To your 81 degrees on Christmas, I'm not allowed to cuss, but after we log off and end the show, I have to go drip all the faucets in my home because we have a freeze warning tomorrow.
Oh no.
Yeah, so we have to open you have to open the cabinets and drip the faucets so that your pipes don't burst, and then pray that we don't lose power because we had the winter storm last year, or the year before last, one of them where people lost power for a week or two or whatnot.
Yeah.
So yeah, Houston be Houston. I thought I saw a meme that said Houston Marie, Texas. You better
act right. Better act
right. But no, it's just to everything. Again, yeah, happy holidays to everybody. Please love on those who love on you. And do what's best for you to stay in a positive frame of mind, as best you can. Do those things that make you happy, and just live this life. You know what I mean? And just recognize those things that aren't worth it, and don't give things more energy than are necessary. You know what I mean? I've been really doing some work in that regard of letting things go, or scrolling by certain things, a lot of things that just don't matter. You know what I mean? Our bandwidth is getting shorter and shorter with a whole lot of things. And so holding on to things that don't matter, it's just unnecessary weight, and it's not going to serve you in the end. So yeah, and I think that kind of applies to everything that we talked about, like with Coach Prime and the criticism that he's receiving, and he's got to learn to let it go and move forward with only he knows the calling that God has on his life, and the direction that he's supposed to go. And Meg having to deal with coping with, getting shot, and may or may not get justice for it. And hopefully the right person is held accountable for that. And then, just mending families. We talked about Master P and Romeo, and things of that nature. So I just can't imagine beefing with my dad and severing that relationship or damaging that relationship. He's meant too much to me, and I am the man that I am because not only did I have a father, but I had, David Hannons as a father, and I couldn't ask for a better father.
Yeah.
So for those who know me, know how I feel about my daddy. Y'all know we have a very public relationship. And y'all know I don't play about my family, period. But specifically, I don't play about my daddy.
Yes, and all the women who ask about you, hey, pops.
Oh God, y'all leave my daddy.
I knew your dad was the truth, even though it scared the mess out of me. The first time that I came to your house, and he was like, "So what are your intentions with my son?" And I was like,
"I'm just a friend."
I intend to just have a good time. I don't know.
But nah. Listen, wow. Pop. No, every woman or every girl, like since I was a kid, like I'm the daughter he never had.
Clearly,
and he just
and always, I was waiting for him to crack a smile, but he
was dead serious. He don't he don't play about his son. So it's like his mentality is like, fathers get to do this for their daughter, nobody says anything. He's like, so why can't I protect my sons?
Right.
Like, why is that frowned upon? So when women came to the house, he grill them. He need to make sure, like, if you out here with my son, I know you in good hands, but is he in good hands? And you ain't gonna have my son out here in some mess and blah blah blah.
I love it.
You ain't about to mess over him. He ain't gonna mess over you. Okay, I might have a couple, but it's in the past. But yeah, so y'all, we want to thank y'all for tuning in. We enjoyed y'all. We enjoyed the conversation. We want to make sure that y'all subscribe if you haven't, so that you can get the alerts for when we're going live. And also the pre-recorded episodes come out. Also, again, we have the playlist of our old content from season 1 that is up. Please go check that out. If you want to donate, you can go to the bit.ly on there. And we just appreciate y'all. And we are going to be here again next week, and we'll let y'all know when more of the pre-recorded content comes out for season 2. But in closing, always remember, be free to be you.
Good night, everybody.
See y'all next week.
Merry Christmas.